Welcome back to the program, everyone. The state of the nation gets our attention next on the program this hour as we get to unpack some issues around elections in 2027, politics and all of that. But, I mean, this morning we're faced with that very big decision by Mr. President to align again with his vice president, who some have tagged as a very, very loyal man. And so the APC, the ruling party, the incumbent party, they're going to be flying with a Muslim ticket, just like as they did in 2023. What exactly are the possible consequences on Nigerians, the party? There are rumors that the likes of Yakubu Dogara, for instance, is set to leave the party. I'm not sure just how true, if that has been confirmed, because it was one of those names that were tipped to become Mr. President's vice president, running mates. But there we go again, Mr. Tinubu, the president of the nation, as a master strategist, as some have called him. This sends a signal that it's about winning the elections in 2027, and who knows how to do it better than President Bola Tinubu himself. So let's get to see how this will play out. But is this perhaps fair to other regions of the country? For instance, we have laid the case as to some regions have tasted power, especially at that office of the president, president and vice president and all of that. So is this really fair for other regions of the country? Well, we'll get some perspective on the program this hour. We're joined by Professor Okey. He's the Executive Director, Development Specs Academy, who joins us live on the program virtually. Thank you indeed, Prof. Just to also mention that Professor Ilechukwu is also a professor of human... Professor Ikechukwu, sorry. Thank you so much, Professor Ikechukwu, for joining us on the program. Professor of Human Capital Development. I hope I got that correctly. Thank you so much for standing by. Let's begin with this big decision by Mr. President to stick with his vice president as running mate, again flying that Muslim ticket. Prof.
Well, yes, he has finally taken a position on that. There were concerns that he was going to choose a Christian, and I think some names were mentioned. Now that he's back to Shetima, I think it's more of a result of political calculations than sensitivity to public, sentiments. The issue on the table is simple. In a nation like Nigeria, the reason people are saying let the presidency go to the north or to the south or to southeast or south-south is because of the need to create some sense of belonging for all the various groups. Now, within the group, there are also other interests, and one of those interests is religion. And so it was felt that also, for a full sense of inclusivity, we should not have a Muslim ticket. Now, Tinubu rode on a Muslim ticket and won. And now he's riding on that again, maybe with some justification. Well, the world didn't come to an end the first time I did it, so why shouldn't I do it again? The other is, if you remove Shetima, his loyalists and some parts of the north are going to create problems for you, because whether you like it or not, Shetima has some good following. There's nothing so terrible he has done that cannot be forgiven, assuming he did anything. So let's do it again. But here are two things to consider. Number one, the fact of having a Muslim ticket running for the second time, for some people is a good sign. Oh, it shows that Nigeria has matured. For another, is another indication of the dangerous politics of this government and this presidency. Remember that it's not just about Tinubu. The first president on the APC was Buhari. And you know that under Buhari, nepotism became the what do you call it, the water of life. All appointments and every other thing. Now Tinubu has come on. He's also being accused of nepotism if you look at several appointments. And now to repeat this ticket, no, some people will say, no, they are not sensitive, But here is a clincher we might need to ask about and consider. What has been the fate of Christians under the 4 years or 3.5 years of Tinubu? It was under his government that the government was accused of Christian genocide. And so I'm sure a lot of arguments will come one on the other side, but it will not amount to anything because it's a decision he's going to stick with. It's for those who don't like that decision to now mobilize, use it to anchor the belief that he's not sensitive enough, use it to anchor the claim that there has been Christian genocide under him, and then go ahead to make a case sufficiently strong and convincing to sweep him away at the polls. Remember that when El-Rufai became governor of Kaduna State with a Muslim ticket, one of the things he said, he was addressing a Muslim audience in Hausa, he said, let us even show them that a Muslim, under a Muslim ticket government, we can deliver justice, fairness, and good governance. Whether he delivered that at the end of the day is another matter because we know what happened in the Southern Zaria area throughout his tenure. But Tinubu has taken his decision. If the opposition believes that's a strong point and a strong reason to take up issues with him, what they need to do is simple, make it a campaign issue, present whatever evidence they claim they have. If they're not the one you take to the US, make a good speech, Trump speaks for you, and you come back, put it on the ground. Prove it by getting the people who believe what you're saying, who have experienced it, to come out on that day and vote out a government they believe is against them. Besides that, every other thing will be semantics. So we'll talk about it, we'll argue about it. But this government, this APC, this president continues to do whatever it or they want to do towards ensuring they return in 2027. The opposition must ask itself, what specific steps are we taking to counter every step they are taking? Instead of calling out public sentiment, justified as it is not a strategy. Those are my initial comments on that point.
And before we exit this subject, I noted that you began by saying this is a product of political calculation and some bit of insensitivity to public sentiment. It's that calculation I'm particularly interested in, especially because in the last 3 years, heading into 4 now, towards the end of the first term of this administration, and amid the conversation on Christian genocide in Nigeria, many Nigerians have recalled the ties of the current vice president to non-state actors sometime back when he was governor. And, you know, amid all of that, they have questioned the president's, you know, if you like, what some would say, deal, you know, with certain non-state actors allegedly. What are the consequences, if that were the case, of this particular Muslim ticket against the backdrop of what the other political parties have put forward in terms of presidential candidate and running mate?
Well, there has always been a story around the vice president regarding his relationships with non-state actors, if you like to be very exact, bandits and insurgents and terrorists, back when he was governor. Now, I'm not in a position to say whether that is true or not, but it's been noised about so much and for so long, and sometimes with presumed evidence. And for as long as it's been on, the vice president has not, either in his private, official, or associated capacity, come out to deny it. So that incubus remains over his head. And this man has a confirmed, allegedly, relationship with insurgents, and they are the backbone he hopes to pick on some time ago. Yeah, that fact is in the public domain. That claim is in the public domain. The other concern and claim is that Shettima has capacity for mischief. In fact, somebody used the expression devious, and that he can actually become a determining variable on how Tinubu will fare in the elections if he's thrown out. In the controversy about whether to retain him or not, some people drew attention to 2 things. Number one, when the new tax law was made, the northern governors rose and spoke against it. But that's not the fact that they spoke is not the issue. It's when and where and with whom. Tinubu had traveled, he wasn't in the country. It was Shettima who presided over the meeting, and the governors came out to make that resolution. APC governors, under an APC presidency, superintended by a vice president. So he was accused of, treachery, being purely northern focused among other things. That in itself, there ought to be enough reason to get rid of him. But bringing it now as it is today, the other candidates are not bringing Muslim or Christian tickets. It is for them to tell Nigerians why they must not vote for a Muslim ticket. It's not about moralizing. Imagine what they are doing. If you're selling food and I'm selling food, we're in a food stall, I don't need to go and be telling anybody that there's no salt in your soup. You already wrote on there, no salt. So people who don't want salt will not come to you. Now, myself, am I stating the ingredients in my own to make people avoid the salted stamp? The opposition is being armed with many things they can use to campaign against the APC, but it doesn't seem to be taking them up. So that's the way it is. I think it should be a campaign point. I think that, yes, even where we see, because the president, and that's where the APC can help itself. The president did not become a Muslim today or yesterday. He was a Muslim before he became governor of Lagos State. And that's why I endeavor to be objective in these matters, because when two madmen are fighting, you don't take sides with them. You meet two madmen, one is pointing and saying, this is a cockroach. The other one says, no, I'm telling you, this is not a cockroach. It is a pillow. You use it to sleep. And you look at what they're arguing about is a bicycle. On whose side will you join? That's partly the kind of debate between the opposition and the APC. Let them put their thing together. If you don't want Muslim tickets, see what we are offering you. That's the way to go. Right now, everybody's in the field. Let them fight with what they have. And I think APC is providing them with enough ammunition. It is not sufficient to say, look, no, we don't want it. Give reasons. We're not saying you're governing unfairly, but we're saying that Christians ought to feel that they belong. That if a delegation comes to see you and it's a Muslim delegation, they should see on the high table next to the leader or the leader himself being a member of their religion. That would make sense. It's about inclusivity. It's not about perfection. It's not about absolute, satisfaction with what is on the table. It's about the optics. There's something fundamentally questionable where you think that whatever works, go on with it. Then it's no longer democratic. Then it's no longer sensitive. Then it's no longer people-centered. And having said that, I remind the opposition, the APC is only interested in winning this election by whatever means possible, whatever strategy possible, including cutting a deal with 3 demons. What are you doing? That's the issue. You're running a Muslim. Did the Bible not tell you also, be ye as wise as the serpent? You're not even as smart as a house rat, and you're facing a grand serpent. Prepare yourselves and take on these people because they are arming you well enough to do so.
Prof, let me ask a straight question on this one.
So you've been asking to get questions before?
Oh my, Prof. The president is perceived as a tactical immobilizer. By that I mean, I've said this over with you. In Lagos, when he was governor, and all his prodigies and the persons that became governor, you can see that a lot of the opposition literally had no say in Lagos. So that model is literally being looked at as what is replicated at the national level. Whether it's working or not, we're seeing 31 governors, we're seeing mass movement, we can do all the permutation. So as we speak now, if there was an election today, is this a home run for this president? And why will that
Very
be?
likely. Very likely, and I'll go from Lagos. Oh, the other point I forgot to make about Lagos was that Tinubu was governor for 8 years. None of us living in Lagos, I didn't know he was a Muslim, and he has Muslims in his Christians in his home, in his family, his primary family. So that's why I say APC also is totally incompetent in its communication. But having said that, the point I'm standing on is that there is no need whatsoever to have a Muslim ticket today, if the government and those in leadership are serious about creating the right optics for a perception of the inclusivity. Now, your question is if there's an election today. No, about strategy. Somebody, I made a comment in one TV appearance on Arise, I think, and an acquaintance called me, that, look, Prof, I saw what you said on air. You said Tinubu is a master strategist. No, he's not. He's a terrible man. I said, listen, you must make a distinction between capacity and what it is used for. If I'm a very strong person and I come and I block the road, or I come into a supermarket and beating people up, anybody who stands in my way, I'm using my strength, which they don't have. If I come into, I have that kind of strength and I'm going around preventing a bully or bullies from bullying people, it's still the same strength. I've deployed it for good, I can deploy it for bad. Now, strategy is the ability to first understand the environment, note the challenges, take options to deal with the challenges, and pick the one that will be most successful and sustainable over time. Now, it's against the context of that I described Tinubu as a master strategist, one who looks for means to succeed in whatever he wants, even if it includes sleeping with the devil 3 times a day. Now, leading up to Lagos, Tinubu, remember that was the only state Obasanjo and the PDP could not take from the Southwest. They went and cut a deal with him. They believed him. They accepted the Omolua beating. He came and swept the entire Southwest to PDP. Everybody was crying except Bola Tinubu. When it was so terrible, what did he? He set up his own party. Then he went ahead to absorb all the states under him. What kind of person is that? Look at the obstacles that were put in his place towards this presidency. So many people were, even Rufai gave a press conference saying that the presidency of Buhari was against him. There was the view that the change of currency by the federal government was to make anybody who had stockpiled cash to be unable to deploy it, and that will affect Tinubu. People were angry about the Christian, Muslim ticket. He went and invented his own bishops, got people, dressed them up, and they went to sign on national television that Christian Association of Nigeria, as represented by these bishops, was endorsing Tinubu. None of them was a bishop. One of them was, in fact, a vulcanizer who cried out when the 15,000 he was promised wasn't paid on time. Now, that is what I mean. So being a strategist is different from being an angel or a saint. It's about being able to survive in an environment in which you found yourself using the tactics that can work. Now, some people are also confronted and say, are you saying those opposed to him should use devious means? Are you suggesting everybody should become evil? I say, I don't know. I don't have a judgment on that matter. But what I'm saying is that if I'm evil, if I'm a terrible person, if I'm deploying tactics that work to knock you out, please understudy me. Design appropriate tactics without adopting my evil methods, but make sure I lose. That's what I'm saying. So they are playing with an element they don't understand. In my place, they say that you don't use hand that is filled with okra to catch a snake. It won't work. Then there's this piece of yam, it's very small, but whenever you try to peel it, you have to be careful because it will, once it slips out of that cover, it will run. They call it bafochora. If you're going to eat it, and this okobono in your hand, you're not going to eat any yam today because you know what you pick up, it will split away. They are dealing with a slippery entity and their hand is full of soap. They won't catch him unless they put a few nails or gravel or something or sharp sand, mix it with the soap, then there can be grip. Tinubu outsmarted them, out-strategized them, and outbeat them in every front in the past. He's also doing that consistently now. His party has gone to say, oh, we've organized right now at every polling booth. We have 25 representatives. They are being mobilized. They are meeting and preparing for the elections. If this is true, just put 25 people per polling booth all over the federation. That runs into between 4,000 and 7,000 people as we speak. Now, what is the opposition doing? What space does the opposition have on ground apart from what's going on in Abuja? I'm not saying they're not doing anything, but I believe they're not doing it. That's my point.
Well, Prof, I mean, you've raised indeed very compelling and very, very strong arguments there in your submission. I'd like to just perhaps hear your thoughts about what you think of an argument that we started here in the studios. We're saying that perhaps the Southwest, that is, if Tinubu gets a second term, my colleague Jeff was suggesting that maybe the Southwest and I think Northwest rather have no business at all in the next election cycle if Tinubu gets a second term, because his argument is that, you know what, they've been in power. Olusegun Obasanjo was in power for 8 years. Tinubu now perhaps 4 years, and maybe he may get another term. The South has tasted power as well in Goodluck Jonathan. But the region that you come from have never tasted power under this democratic system that we practice now, and another geopolitical zone. So do you think it may be fair as well for those, the Southwest, South, and Northwest to stay out of it completely?
You mean for this election or in future?
In future, after this one.
No, for this election, they should stay out of it if they are hoping to build a nation. I think we should also stay out of it because he's in a party that on its own took a decision that there will be a rotation between North and South. So the one he contested last time was already a violation. He's keeping to it because of his personal ambition. So in the current election, if indeed there's what you might call a lead consensus on power and fairness and equity and a sense of the inclusion, then any of them who is not from the Southeast, who you say has tested power in the last 25 years, I mean, whose region has tested power in the last 25 years, or 26, should stay out of it. Yeah, that would make sense. But I usually prefer to go beyond what is best to what is feasible and what is realistic. This is not a nursery school where you come in the morning, call a register, everybody will say, present, sir. And they say, okay, those of you who are not wearing proper sandals, go to the left and they will comply. This is politics. I don't look for level playing ground in politics because what politics is not football. The political landscape is like a wild forest with lions, crocodiles, boa constrictors, poisonous spiders, even witches. You don't go there because you're going on a picnic. So the opposition has to prepare. The Southeast must ask itself why things are the way it is today. If you say there's a lead consensus and the other parts of the country say, look, let's let it be. Let our parties only field some people from the Southeast, just like we did in 1999 to appease the Southwest. Have you asked yourself what the current governors of the Southeast will do? They don't want P2B. They are working against him and all sorts of things. In the last election, I said to my friends and colleagues and all the obedience who were all talking together that all Buhari needs, all Tinubu needed was 25%. And he's already been guaranteed that. The two governors I spoke with have told me that, look, they need to deliver the 25% and go on, that they are not ready for P2B. All kinds of arguments were put in place. Now, if you get all the votes from the Southeast and give it to one person, it will not touch what you get from Kano. And that's why the alliance with Okey is very strategic. But I'll go ahead to add, and this is probably the first time I'm saying this in public. In the last election, I didn't vote because I knew the results more than 2 months before the election. And how I knew that was by detailed evaluation of the efforts of both the government and the Labour Party. Labour Party was completely prepared to win that election, and I know, at the risk of presumption, I believe better that Labour won that election landslide. But as we were heading towards the election, I could see that Labour was not preparing to warehouse its own victory. You have a massive land of yams planted. You have no warehouse to store the yam when it's harvested, and your boys are not in the field. That's what happened to P2B's victory in the last election. So when a colleague called me on the day, okay, I hope you're there. I mean, my polling booth, the turnout is good. I said, no, I'm at home. He said, what? Look at the time. What are you doing at home? I said, I'm watching Tom and Jerry. He said, can you imagine? Please tell me how it is in your polling booth. I said, I'm not outside. I'm not going to vote. He said, what? I said, listen, at my age, I can't go out in the sun and stand for nothing. There will be no outcome of the task we both desire. I will not have someone beat me for that. He said, what? I said, the result is already there. Look at the analysis. Of course, it turned out that way. There was nobody to warehouse the result. The polling, the agents in the polling booths were not really properly coordinated. Then they went to court, and I studied the details of what Labour was taking to court. Again, I said, this case is lost. They said, how? I said they have, but they consider evidence from all manner of sources, but who is going to tender it? That INEC can disown any document you didn't produce. And if you say these documents are from your agency, and of course, you saw what happened in court. Of course, without ignoring the fact that those Labour was dealing with were totally without compunction. They were only interested in getting what they wanted, fairly or unfairly, equitably or inequitably. So as it is now, from what we are seeing on the table, the opposition has to make superhuman efforts to achieve what it is thinking or dreaming of. Otherwise, this thing is as good as lost. See something they can bring in on the table. Let us suppose I'm the opposition person. I go to a press conference and say, look, we are going to conduct national polls on the performance of this government. And we kick it off. If you believe prices are better now than they were before this government, say yes. And you make it national. In fact, in the 2007 elections, I was on the presidential campaign team of the PDP, and we put out a quiz. Quote Buhari and win 1 million naira. In other words, if you can make any get to any quotation of Buhari where he has supported democracy ever since he became president in 1983, send it to audio. Nobody won that because there was none. So things like that, you create creative campaigns. Yeah. You carry out, say, this kind of poll in one place and publish the result. The people in this area say prices are bad, insecurity is high. You tabulate it. By the time you do this for 2 months, I think you generate some kind of national consensus with which you can then tell the people, yes, we know they're going to give you money, but take their money, vote against them is bad government. They are not doing politics, with all due respect.
I like your the vivid imagery that characterizes your analysis, Prof. And I want to follow up a bit from part of it where you say the ruling party has given the opposition ammunition, but they're holding it with okra and ogbono soiled hands. Let's talk about a bit more that looks like ammunition, and which is something that has got Nigerians angry in the last 2 weeks. This alleged fake agency, which our earlier guests would rather call unauthorized agency, unauthorized DG of a Presidential Foreign Intervention Council. And now, I wonder if this is ammunition alongside, maybe we should even mention at this point reports by the IMF that there are extra budgetary deductions from the budget.
8.8 billion.
Indeed. So what is the opposition, or what should the opposition be doing with this ammunition ahead of 2027? Is the opposition even picking up on these issues at all?
That's why I'm saying that they are just dancing around and making speeches. On this matter of fake agency, recall that the president published a list of, the presidency published, or the Federal Republic of Nigeria published a list of individuals granted presidential pardon. And most of them were drug pushers in detention, all kinds of criminals who later were seen to have given money to have their names on that list. So those who may produce that list, were they mentioned, were they sanctioned, were they tried, were they arrested, were they queried? No. So looking at it, anything can happen, and as all sorts of things have been happening under this government from under the table, apparently without the president himself being aware of it. So this is in the same pattern. This agency is a de facto agency, but not a de jure agency. In other words, it exists in fact and in name with an address, but is not recognized by law. And so the question would be, how come this place came to exist, got an office in the right type of location and space for such offices, had personnel deployed by the head of service, I think, got itself on the budgetary list. So instead of talking about Femi, the man in the middle of the controversy, right now we should have gotten an arrest of not less than 20 people across all levels, from the presidency to the finance ministry to the office of head of service, etc. The head of service should have been queried. He questioned. His observations will help unravel. So how did he get to the point that you could actually sign off a document allocating staff to so and so. You say, oh, I got this correspondence. From whom, sir? From so and so. They produce the correspondence. Oh, we just discovered it's fake. Were you aware of that? No. I have no record of responding to fake communication. But look at the circumstantial evidence. It came from here. Look at the paper. Look at the signature. It turns out that this document was generated without the person whose signature is there being aware of it. Therefore, it's a forgery. I know there is a forgery. Now, through that, he gets exonerated, but all the processes that led to the paper getting to his table, the people involved, that's when you say you're doing a serious investigation. Then to get on the budget, we've had of padded budgets. We've seen under this government 2 different budgets. Of course, past governments have also done that across all the party lines. Now you move up to the question of 8.8 trillion. I think that's it. That was discovered to have been spent without official district. There is nothing new or strange in that at all. This sort of thing has been going on for as long as government existed, both military and civilian, and from you have authority, AIE. That's why you find that you get approvals. You go to collect the money, is no longer there because it's been spent through authority to incur expenditure based on emergencies. But what should worry us is that this kind of money can be spent and the requests of ASU are not met. There's an increase in examination fees to 50,000. Nobody thought of saying, okay, find out the number of those who are taking WAEC, the cost of taking any of these exams for which you want to raise prices. The cost per student per annum is X number of billions. Let us pay the X number of billions. Let these children give it to the agency organizing the exam. Let these children write the exam without paying. No, those are not national emergencies. National emergencies is the plunder you find going on among politicians, roads that nobody has any use for, money that can be used to put a rail line to the southeast, but is not happening. There are national priorities, all of which are just platforms for plunder and stealing. Those are the issues on the table. So the fact of that money, 8.8 trillion, true or not, shows you that we have our priorities wrong as a people. Our leaders, the government has told us how much more money now sent to the states because of the increase in petroleum product. Oh, they have money now that are constructing roads. Please, roads are to be used by people who are alive.
All right.
Poor people cannot. Anyway, don't even let me go on.
Well, Prof, indeed, as always, I like your arguments and some of the insights. I mean, these questions indeed are begging for answers, and we'll watch and see and wait and just get to see what will come out of the ICPC reports. Mr. President giving them a 30-day deadline. We're waiting to see the outcome of that report, even though we hear as well the police is set to arraign Adeyemi Matthew Adeniyi in court as well in the coming days. But almost thank you as always.
No. Can I have another 20 seconds, please, just on this?
All right, Prof. Yeah. Go ahead, Prof.
All right. The fact that the case was already flagged, there was somebody charged to court last year, etc., already pulls a rug, in my view, from Adeyemi. Last year, not now. So assuming this whole prosecution thing began after the whistleblowing and all of that in 2026, I would say here they are trying to do a cover-up. So I think we should wait for the ICPC report. For Adeyemi spoke so boldly in response to Rajabiamila, and that some of us were saying, no, this man must have his facts for him to be this bold. But to now find out that there was already a matter in court at the instance of the law for enforcement authorities and all of that means that we should wait for the correct picture to emerge.
All right. We have to leave it here. Professor Okey Ikechukwu is a professor of leadership and human capital development. He's also the executive director of Development Specs Academy. Thank you indeed, as always, Prof, for talking to us.
Thank you.